Imagine this. You're home alone. It's late at night. You get up to grab a glass of water. You've walked this hallway thousands of times. Every picture on the wall is familiar. Every piece of furniture is exactly where you left it. Then, the power suddenly goes out. Instantly. Everything changes. The hallway hasn't become more dangerous. Nothing has entered your house. No predator is hiding behind the couch. Logically, you know you're perfectly safe. But your body doesn't seem to care. Your heart beats faster. Your breathing becomes shallower. Every tiny sound suddenly feels important. A floorboard creaks. You freeze. Something brushes against the curtain. Your muscles tense. You start imagining possibilities your rational mind knows are almost certainly impossible. Why? Why does darkness change the way we think? Children fear the dark naturally. Adults pretend they don't, yet millions of people still sleep with a small light on, still hurry through dark parking lots, still feel uncomfortable walking alone at night, still check behind them after hearing an unexpected sound. Maybe that isn't childish at all. Maybe your brain is doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. Because for almost every night in human history, darkness wasn't simply the absence of light. It was the beginning of uncertainty, and uncertainty was often deadly. Tonight, we're going to discover why humans are afraid of the dark, how predators quietly shape the human brain, and why, even inside your perfectly safe home, an ancient survivor may still be standing watch. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to Sketching Humanity. Now, let's turn off the lights and travel back to the nights that built the human mind. Today, darkness is mostly an inconvenience. You flip a switch, and the night disappears. Streetlights illuminate entire cities. Flashlights fit inside your pocket. Your phone produces more light than an ancient campfire. But for more than 99% of human history, none of that existed. When the sun disappeared, the world truly became dark. Not dim, dark. The kind of darkness where your own hand almost vanished in front of your face. Humans never evolved exceptional night vision. Compared with many predators, our eyesight becomes remarkably limited after sunset. Lions see far better in low light. Leopards move almost silently through darkness. Hyenas communicate across enormous distances using sounds humans struggle to locate. Even snakes detect warmth rather than relying only on vision. As daylight faded, our greatest evolutionary advantage, our large intelligent brain, suddenly became much less useful. The landscape hadn't changed. The predators hadn't changed. Only one thing had changed. Humans could no longer see what was coming. That single limitation transformed night into one of the most dangerous environments our ancestors ever faced. Darkness itself wasn't trying to kill them, but darkness allowed everything else to hide. And once danger became invisible, the human brain faced an impossible problem. How do you survive what you cannot see? Imagine hearing a loud crash in the middle of the night. Notice what happens. Your body reacts before your mind understands anything. Your heart speeds up. Your muscles tighten. Your breathing changes. Only afterward, does your brain begin asking questions? What was that? Where did it come from? Am I actually in danger? This isn't a flaw in human thinking. It's one of evolution's greatest survival shortcuts. Deep inside your brain sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. Think of it as an ancient alarm system. Its job isn't to determine whether something is definitely dangerous. Its job is much simpler. React first. Ask questions later. Because throughout evolutionary history, waiting for perfect information often meant waiting too long. Imagine hearing movement behind tall grass. Perhaps it's only the wind. Perhaps it's a harmless animal. Or perhaps it's a lion. If your brain pauses to carefully analyze every possibility, you may never get another chance. Running away unnecessarily costs energy. Ignoring real danger can cost your life. Evolution consistently favored the first mistake over the second. A false alarm wastes only a few moments. A missed predator ends your family line forever. That tiny difference shaped millions of years of natural selection. Gradually, human brains became exceptionally sensitive to uncertainty itself. Not just obvious danger. Anything unclear, anything hidden, anything impossible to identify. Darkness became the perfect trigger. Because darkness removes information. And when information disappears, the amygdala begins filling the gaps with caution. Not because it knows something terrible is waiting, but because it cannot prove that nothing is. To understand why darkness still feels uncomfortable, we need to meet the animals that once ruled it. Picture East Africa, 100,000 years ago. The sun slowly disappears beneath the horizon. Birdsong fades. The temperature drops. For humans, the day is ending. For many predators, the hunt is only beginning. Lions become more active after sunset. Their eyes collect available light far more efficiently than ours. They move quietly across open grasslands, often remaining invisible until they're dangerously close. Leopards are even more unsettling. Silent. Patient. Capable of climbing trees with astonishing ease. A sleeping human high in the branches wasn't necessarily safe. Hyenas hunted differently. They relied heavily on communication, powerful jaws, extraordinary endurance, and remarkable teamwork. Even if humans escaped one predator, another might already be nearby. Then there were snakes, scorpions, large nocturnal birds of prey, countless smaller dangers hidden beneath rocks, inside tall grass, or beneath fallen branches. Every night, the landscape filled with threats humans couldn't easily detect. This doesn't mean ancient humans lived in constant panic. Far from it. They adapted. They built fires, slept together, chose campsites carefully, developed routines that dramatically improved survival. But none of those strategies eliminated uncertainty, because no matter how intelligent humans became, they could never completely control the darkness itself. And over thousands upon thousands of generations, their brains quietly learned one unforgettable lesson. When visibility disappears, assume caution first. If darkness gave predators their greatest advantage, fire became humanity's greatest reply. Few discoveries changed human evolution as profoundly. Imagine the same African plain, the same predators, the same freezing night. Now add one small campfire. Suddenly, everything feels different. The flames push darkness backward. Smoke drifts across the landscape. Wood crackles loudly. Moving shadows become easier to recognize. Predators lose one of their greatest weapons. Surprise? Large carnivores rarely enjoy approaching bright fire. Not because flames make humans unstoppable, but because uncertainty works both ways. Just as humans cannot see everything beyond the darkness, predators cannot easily predict what waits inside the circle of firelight. For the first time, humans had created a small piece of the night that belonged to them. People gathered together. Children slept near their parents. Hunters repaired broken tools. Elders shared stories. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next beneath the glow of burning wood. Some anthropologists believe these long evenings around campfires helped strengthen language, social bonds, and cooperation itself. The fire did something remarkable. It didn't remove fear. It gave fear boundaries. Inside the light, people could relax. Outside the light, uncertainty remained. Even today, that ancient contrast still feels strangely familiar. Many people feel comfortable sitting beside a campfire in the middle of nowhere. Walk only a few steps beyond its light, and the darkness suddenly feels different again. Nothing has actually changed, but your brain believes it has, because somewhere deep inside your nervous system, the edge of the firelight still marks the place where certainty ends. One of the strongest clues that fear of darkness has deep evolutionary roots comes from children. Parents rarely need to teach toddlers to fear complete darkness. In fact, many children begin showing this fear naturally. Developmental psychologists have studied this pattern for decades. Young children usually become more cautious around unfamiliar people, greater heights, certain animals, and dark environments at predictable stages of development. Why? Because evolution doesn't wait for dangerous experiences to happen. It prepares the brain before they happen. Imagine two prehistoric children. One eagerly wanders into the darkness without hesitation. The other stays close to the adults and the fire. Which child is more likely to survive? Across thousands of generations, small differences like these gradually influenced natural selection. The children who remained cautious often lived longer. Eventually, their cautious brains became the brains we inherited. That doesn't mean darkness itself is dangerous. It means our brains evolved to treat uncertainty with respect. Parents became an essential part of that system. A child's fear often disappears the moment a trusted adult enters the room. Nothing outside has changed. The darkness remains exactly the same. What changes is the child's expectation of protection. That simple reaction reveals something fascinating. For hundreds of thousands of years, human survival rarely depended on facing danger alone. It depended on staying close to other humans. Perhaps that is why even many adults still sleep more peacefully, knowing someone else is nearby. Many adults insist they are no longer afraid of the dark. And in one sense, they're right. They aren't afraid of darkness itself. They're afraid of what darkness might be hiding. Notice how different darkness feels depending on where you are. Sitting in your own living room after sunset usually feels completely normal. Walking alone through an unfamiliar forest at exactly the same level of darkness feels very different. The amount of light hasn't changed. The amount of uncertainty has. This is exactly what your brain evolved to measure, not darkness. Uncertainty. That is also why horror movies work so well. The monster rarely appears immediately. The director lets the audience imagine what might be there. A slow creaking door, footsteps from another room, a shadow that seems to move, a figure standing just beyond the light. The human brain instinctively begins filling in the missing information. Sometimes, it imagines something far more frightening than reality. Psychologists call this predictive processing. Your brain is constantly building expectations about the world. When information is missing, it creates possibilities. Most of the time, those predictions help us move efficiently through everyday life. But at night, when visibility decreases, those same prediction systems become much more cautious. That is why a pile of clothes on a chair can briefly look like a person, why a tree branch becomes an outstretched arm, why an ordinary sound inside an old house suddenly feels important. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's trying to solve a problem, using incomplete information. The same strategy that once protected prehistoric families still quietly operates inside modern apartments. Modern life often treats fear as something negative, something to overcome, something to eliminate. But evolution tells a very different story. Fear is one of the reasons you're alive. Imagine two prehistoric hunters. One ignores every strange sound, never worries, never hesitates. The other becomes cautious whenever something feels unusual. Occasionally, the cautious hunter wastes time investigating nothing. The fearless hunter saves time. At first, the fearless hunter appears more efficient. Then one evening, the unusual sound actually is a predator. The cautious hunter survives. The fearless hunter does not. Evolution doesn't reward being correct every time. It rewards surviving long enough to have children. This idea is sometimes called the smoke detector principle. A smoke detector occasionally sounds when there's no fire. That's annoying. But failing to sound during a real fire is catastrophic. Your brain works in remarkably similar ways. False alarms are acceptable. Missed danger is not. That ancient calculation still influences modern behavior. You instinctively slow down in dark parking lots. You pay more attention when walking alone at night. You notice unexpected movement in your peripheral vision. Most of the time, nothing happens. And that's exactly the point. The goal of fear was never comfort. The goal was survival. Your ancestors didn't survive because they were fearless. They survived because their fears were often useful. Tonight, when you switch off the lights, notice what your brain does. Listen carefully. Perhaps you'll hear your house settling, a distant car passing outside, the wind brushing against a window. None of those sounds are dangerous. Yet your brain still pays attention. Not because it believes you're living beside lions, but because millions of years of evolution taught it one unforgettable lesson. When visibility disappears, listen more carefully. Long before electricity, before locked doors, before alarm systems, before safe neighborhoods, our ancestors survived countless nights by respecting the darkness. Fire gave them courage. Families gave them protection. Experience gave them wisdom. But the fear itself never completely disappeared. Instead, it became part of who we are. Today, darkness rarely hides predators, yet it still hides uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what the human brain evolved to notice. So perhaps being slightly uncomfortable in the dark isn't a weakness. Perhaps it's one of the oldest survival instincts still quietly protecting you. The next time your heart beats a little faster after hearing an unexpected sound at night. Remember this. Somewhere deep inside your brain, an ancient human is still listening for footsteps beyond the edge of the firelight. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden evolutionary history behind everyday human behavior, let us know in the comments. What instinct do you think humans still carry from prehistoric times? We'd love to hear your ideas. And if you enjoy documentaries about archaeology, evolution, anthropology, and the incredible story of ancient humans, don't forget to subscribe to Sketching Humanity. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next journey into humanity's prehistoric past.